Welcome to a collection of Blackout tips, some beginner stuff, some I think is more interesting. Would have been nice if I didn't get sick and made this a week ago as planned, but hopefully you'll get something out of this regardless if you aren't already a big BR and Blackout aficionado. Starting with a small thing, a decent way to look around while running. It's good practice to always be scanning your surroundings, looking for enemies, but at the moment there isn't a way to move your neck left and right while continuing to run forward like some other games, and you may not want to always be breaking your sprint to look around. Maybe you're running from the zone or want to get out of an open area. So another way to look around is to jump into slides. Because you slide in the direction that you were moving when you jumped, you can look in any other direction, so this gives a good length of time to check all around you without losing forward momentum. This is much easier to do on PC, I will admit. If you're on low sensitivity joysticks, probably not going to be that helpful. Another thing I guess I'll throw in here, although I'm sure it's a bug that'll be fixed in the near future, but I'm surprised that a week later I haven't seen much talk about it. If you can find a trauma kit in the pregame lobby and use it as the screen is fading to black, your health will still be boosted to 200 in the actual game. If you use it too early, it will be reset, but for some reason it seems like your health is reset to 150 before your inventory is cleared, so that puts you at a nice little advantage in the early game. And yeah, it isn't fair because not everyone spawns into the pregame lobby at the same time, but it isn't that game breaking since it usually isn't easy to find a trauma kit in the pregame. But there you go, enjoy that bug before it's gone. It's something to do during the countdown. Now onto some supply crate locations and a bit of drop strategy. The two common strategies people consider are a hot drop to a big popular location like firing range with 10 other people where maybe you come out on top all geared up, or there's dropping to a couple unmarked houses far away where you'll have a more relaxed time gearing up and you'll stay alive to get into the fight later, but without great stuff. In my experience, higher tier loot areas are always worth visiting even if not right away. There is a very clear difference in the amount of long range weapons, trauma kits, and level 2 armor everywhere, with the chance at level 3 and top tier stuff. That doesn't mean you should hot drop though, just go to a high tier location, less popular or farther away from the drop path, or even later in the game. In this game, Fracking Tower wasn't even that far away from the path and I was all alone. The strategy I like to employ is to drop directly to a supply crate location. Of course, some of them are in the generally hotter zones like that Fracking Tower underground and the Nuketown bunkers. I know there's also a crate spot in the semi-truck in the main original Nuketown area, but there are several spots that are a bit more low-key. My old favorites are hidden under the buoys off the northwest and southwest corners of the cargo docks. I was grabbing these here back in the beta. I thought I was going to blow everyone's minds with them, but turns out they made it into a Dark Ops challenge, which is kind of too bad because that means most people will find out about these through that. But oh well, it still seems like they're rarely looted, so even late in the game you may want to swing by here and check it out. Maybe you can grab some free level 3 armor. Here's another one not in a big hot drop location. This tiny place south of Estates. There's a potential crate in that northwest garage type building, and I think several garages like this around the map can spawn crates. I just don't have footage of them all. A bit further south from there, another great loot spot. There's the helicopter clearing here on the map. It is a high tier area. The catch is that it's not very large, so it's more of a solo drop location, not much for a squad. But more often than not, it comes with a truck and a helicopter, or at least one, and because it isn't marked on the map, not a whole lot of people are dropping here yet, although I'm sure that'll change with time. I almost always leave there with a trauma kit or two, a decent weapon setup, level 2 or even 3 armor I found there, some of the most useful attachments like high zoom optics, extended barrels, and mags. I believed there was a crate spawn here too, because there was in the beta, but if it's still there, it's very rare. So far when I've gone there, I've only been seeing those smaller supply stashes and med bags spawning in the old crate spot. I know that can happen in spots where big crates do spawn, like that garage I just mentioned, or the Nuketown bunker spot, so it might still have a chance of spawning there, but even without that, I love starting at that spot for solos, and from there I'll just fly from crate to crate to get the best gear. It's something to do that's more fun than crouching around and camping. If I get shot at in the helicopter too much, I can just jump out. Depending on the circle, the next stop might be the Fracking Tower. If the doors are all closed, I'll go down and check out that basement, or I could have visited the crate spot out in the turbine area in the middle of this long warehouse. Like in this game, I jumped to it and was all alone because it was fairly far away. I didn't have to do any looting, and I instantly had 2 weapons with full attachments, and if I want to ditch one, I can strip all those attachments off and put it on something else. Going to the crates can really cut down your looting time. To go through a few more crate locations, there's one up on this catwalk in the factory area to the south of Fracking Tower, and in the Black Ops 3 stronghold side of Estates here, just off the helipad. Ignore the part where I can't aim. If you can aim, that's all that matters. but by knowing to start at the crate there, I had a guaranteed way to defend myself while he had to hope for something on the ground. There's yet another one in array here on the southwest dish platform. Also a bit to the south of that, you can check under the gazebo at this unmarked cluster of houses, but that's another where it seems to usually just be the smaller ammo or med stash, similar to the raid basketball court, and another one here in Rivertown, this little covered area. Like, I know I grabbed a full crate here in the beta, but it seems like some of these old spots may have been downgraded. Either way, those med bags are usually good for a free trauma kit, and a way for you to find Crash's poker chips, by the way, if you haven't unlocked him. So the takeaway is there are many of these crate spots where if you have that map knowledge, you can start your looting at one or swing by them later as you're heading to a circle and possibly get some nice upgrades without needing to fight over a drop or a marked zombies location. Definitely keep an eye out for any other crate locations. I'm sorry I don't have a concrete map for you of every possible crate. This is just the ones I've showed examples of in this video. This could only be 10% of possible spawn locations. I'm sure there are spots to be found in at least every named location, and probably several garages all around the map. Since they don't spawn in every game, not easy to find them all as one person. But if you see one, remember where it was so you can go back there in future games. Speaking of drop strategy, I'll quickly cover some very simple stuff, like wingsuiting basics, which I'm sure you've heard everywhere if this isn't your first Blackout tip video, but it is important. When you deploy, dive straight down for just a moment until you see your character pull their arms in, then you can level out and look at your destination, or if you're going farther, like across the entire map, which you can easily do, just look up at the horizon after gaining that initial speed from the dive, and your wingsuit will carry you far. That also means hopping out very early is a good idea to get to the ground first. Don't wait until you're right above your destination, then dive straight down at it. And a second very basic thing, to redeploy your suit mid-game, you just have to be running at a large drop of some sort, something that's about high enough to kill you, then hold jump when you jump off to glide down safely. And jumping out of a helicopter will always deploy it for you. Now, how about we talk baiting, something that applies more broadly to BR games, but is not used that commonly. I guess there are a couple types of baiting. One is the more trolly type, where you're camping in a building and dump a bunch of good-looking gear on the ground so that if someone comes in, they might be staring at it and you get a free scumbag kill. I tried to get a clip of that several times, but nobody ever came into my dang houses, even when it was at the center of the final zone. The other baiting that I actually wanted to mention is the type where you simulate being in a gunfight to get someone to come check it out. Let's say you're aiming at some building or a compound where a guy is hiding and you want him to leave or push out to come attack you so you don't have to go to him. You could simulate being in a fight with somebody else by just firing in the other direction and making noise. That may go against every sense you have to be drawing all that attention. You would only do it if you're confident enough in your gear setup and your ability to win battles, but when people think you're in a fight with somebody else, they will often assume that you're either wounded or distracted or both, and move towards you to see if they can clean up, or at least see what's happening because they think you won't be looking in their direction. But since you weren't actually in a fight, you'll have the surprise advantage on the guy coming towards you, and if they've left their cover behind, you should easily win that fight. That wasn't a very good clip to demonstrate that at all, but I hope you get the idea. A bit more of an advanced tactic, and by no means guaranteed to work every time. Some people hide when they hear gunfire, but if you weren't already aware of that strat, you can tuck that one away in your playbook at least. Continuing with some more general BR advice that I'm sure will be mostly obvious to fans of the mode, but navigating the circle intelligently is really the biggest thing that will lead you to a win. It isn't the most glamorous strategy, but moving with the collapse nearby is much safer. You only have to watch what's in front of you as opposed to running into the middle of the circle as soon as the next one is announced. If you do that, well, now you have everyone moving towards and looking at your position, and assuming you only have a tree or a rock for cover, you have to try to guess where people are coming from. That said, moving cover to cover is far more important than positioning on the edge of the collapse as it moves in, because decent players will be watching the edges, and if you're caught out with no cover to heal behind, that's the worst thing you can do. Blackout has a fairly high time to kill and very fast healing, so even if you get shot first, as long as it wasn't a one-shot kill, you can take cover and heal. And now you should have an idea of where you got shot from. Avoid starting a fight if you don't have cover nearby, and of course try to start a fight when your enemy is not near any cover and you are. Control the engagement, you might say. And to hopefully avoid those random one-shot kills, you'll of course want to keep moving at all times, never stand still to give someone an easy headshot. Aside from moving with the circle and going cover to cover, also think about where the most people will be coming from based on the old circle and where it is on the map. In this situation, for example, if the new circle is towards one side of the current one, well, you can assume that after that circle closes in, this side will be more player dense than the thinner side, since more people came from that direction. Also take into account where the circle is on the entire map. The side closer to the edge should generally have fewer people than the side everyone came from. So moving around to the back of the new circle gives you a better chance that your enemies will be in front of you and not all around you. At the same time, you have to consider the terrain. You generally want to move to higher ground, and above all, whatever has the most cover. Towards the end here, it has to be said, use your equipment and perks. It seems like everyone's good at looting them, but too often they just sit in your inventory. Don't be afraid to use perks as soon as you pick them up sometimes, and throw equipment at every fight you get in. There's a good chance the guy you kill will have some unused equipment of his own for you to replenish what you used. If you died with a 9-bang in your pocket because you were saving it, you done messed up. I think by now everyone has realized that 9-bangs win gunfights. Lead with those when you can, and toss those cluster bombs too, even if they only serve as a distraction, getting someone to think they need to leave the cover there behind. Use those recon cars too, why not? Find somebody's hiding spot, as long as you're in a safe spot to call it in. That's one thing that isn't too great to save for the end game, when people might be able to tell where you called in the car from and get you while you're defenseless. The only stuff I always like to save for the end game is the sensor dart, maybe a trophy system, and a couple sound perks like awareness and dead silence or skulker. Those become a pretty big game changer with a small circle and not many alive. The sensor dart radius can cover most of an endgame circle, or can be great to scan a house that's in the zone, for example. Trophy systems for that late game nade spam, deny those 9-bangs, and sound perks are huge for pinpointing enemies while staying silent yourself. Awareness is much better towards the end. If you use it when there are still 30 people alive all around you, it's hard to know what to listen to, but if there are only 2 alive, it's much more helpful because you can much more easily understand what's going on. Equipment and perks are essential. Don't flash yourself though, pro tip. Don't worry though, it worked out. And pro tip number 2, heal up. That dude had 57 health and he had every type of healing on him. Don't feel like it's a waste to use a trauma kit at 150 health just to boost you to 200, especially if you have more than one since they can't stack. They can be very nice in the middle of a fight to jump straight back to full, but you never know when that extra 50 health will save your life. And you'll notice I reacted to something there. I'll play that part with the volume up. Yeah, sound is massive in Blackout. If you're not using a headset, I hope at the very least you have a couple decent left and right speakers turned up. The sound can be buggy sometimes as well, and the verticality of it still isn't that great. But tracking people's footsteps does give you a huge advantage, hearing vehicles, and also all the deployable equipment makes unique noises you can pick up on, like the hum of the trip mine or the beeping of the sensor dart. But also be warned that flags flapping in the wind sounds way too much like footsteps in this game, so don't be fooled by that. I'll call it there for this video. I think this would have been more helpful had it been made a week ago when I planned most of it. Trying to catch up now. I have some multiplayer stuff planned next as well, but hopefully this wasn't completely useless. It's impossible to make a video that appeals to the full range of people, from those who are completely new to Battle Royales to, of course, everyone who knows way more than me. But I hope you found at least something interesting here, despite the somewhat messy format of just throwing advice at you. I guess I should have done a top 10 tips or something. After all, I think more people click on things with numbers in the title. Oh yeah, that's what I should have done. An entire video formatted like that guy. Number 15. Connection interrupted. The last thing you'd want when you're crossing the river is to lose connection. But as it turns out, that might be what you get. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.